Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I'm the senior minister here at the Oasis. And I always like to introduce this wonderful team that God has provided me. Let's start from who I knew first. Let's do Oz first.
It's over there.
I've known Oz in 1998. He joined the Denver Church of Religious Science when I was the minister there. And he's been my partner in crime all these years. He helped me create this church back in 1999 and was my board president for a long time. But he's my first baby practitioner, meaning he took all of his training with me, except for one class, and then was my board president for many years. And then he moved off to Florida, and we lost the ability to have him be practitioner of the day. And so when we came on during the pandemic, I asked him if he was interested, and he's like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. So the team is back together, and I love it. The band is back together, as they say. But Oz is our practitioner of the day, meaning that he does the invocation and the benediction, and he's available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. And I'll talk more about that later, but just so you know who the players are here. Thank you for being here. I love you. And then the next would be Tina. Albertina Giuffre has been a singer in our church since 2000, took her practitioner training with me, and she became a licensed practitioner. And so we're really blessed that she's here today. She needed to take time for herself to get her house in order, literally and figuratively. And so we only invite her back for special occasions. So today she's here because the topic is joy. Welcome, Tina. Thank you for being here. We love you.
Thank you. Love you guys too. I miss you, but I had to get everything off the floor out of the garage. And, oh my God. I tried two garage sales, and now everything was on the floor. So I've just been cleaning. I almost have my first floor down.
Wow.
I want to have a home again before Christmas. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, we miss you too. So thank you for being here. Love you. All right. And then we have my faithful assistant, Faith, who's basically been my assistant since the day she was born. Her dad used to bring her to church right away. Like you were like 3 weeks old, I think, when you first started attending church. And he would work the soundboard with one arm and hold Faith with the other. And then when she was able to crawl, she crawled right up on the stage as if she belonged there. So we left her there. I just walk around her as I was doing my sermons. And then we would put her on the podium when I was doing announcements. She just sat up there as a baby. So, and then, she lived like 6 blocks away from me for all of her life, pretty much. And her dad was a tow truck driver, and he'd go on these tows out of town, and he would drop the girls at my house. Well, my house is known as the project house. There is always a project happening. And so when she said at 14 and a half, I want a real job, I was like, yeah, I'll hire you. I'd seen her work. So she came and worked for me at my ozone business. And then when we set up the online services for the pandemic, she was willing to be my ministerial assistant, and she's also most of the time our soloist now. So thank you so much for being here, sweetie. I love you. All right. And as I said, the topic, we're doing the Advent topics as most churches do this time of year. Today is joy. And so I'll be speaking about that a little bit more later. So say hi, hello, good morning, however you'd like to greet us. When we're in a facility, I can look out and see the shining faces beaming back at me. I don't get that feedback here. I get a number. I can't even tell who's here. I was talking to someone last night who said, I like to watch it later because I don't want anybody to know I'm there. And I said, nobody knows you're there. There's a number. There's just a number. That's it. So we appreciate it when you say hi, hello, good morning. Let us know that you're here. If you're joining in later, you can just drop a line and say hello. It's kind of nice to know who was here later as well. There's a watch party button that you can click on that and invite all of your friends so they can see what kind of Sunday service to expect. And you can talk amongst yourselves because it's private and you won't disturb anybody, but you can answer any questions that they might have. So click on that watch party button and invite all of your friends. In the meantime, Close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
The presence of God. For God, as we conceive of it, is all there is. If God is infinite, if God is eternal, if God is ever present, God must be right here, right now, in all things as all things. And I know that that presence is right here in our service too, uplifting and inspiring for now and for the future. And I know that the presence of God moves in each one of us in its own individual way. And I know that this is a blessing. And I know that it is good and very good. I know these things, and I give great thanks that it is so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you so much, Oz. I'm having to operate controls here. I normally don't have to do anything. Faith does all the work, but on this part of it, like I have to bring people in and out. So it's kind of a challenge at times. All right. So this next song is a song that Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver wrote when she was doing her practitioner training. And it's a great reminder for us to know that we are all connected and we're connected to all of life. So here it is.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. For God is all there is. Grateful am I to be living, open to what I receive, honoring what I've been given, sharing now what I believe. I remember the oneness around me. I surrender to infinite light, knowing the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. Yes, we are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it.
Yes, we are all one in it. So remember to say hi, hello, good morning, however you'd like to greet us. If we're in a facility, I can look out and see people looking back at me. Here, I don't have that ability. So it's always nice to know when someone's here. So say hi, hello, good morning. If you like something that you hear, whether it's something I say or Tina sings or Oz prays, use that like button. And if you love something that you hear, of course, use the heart button and send us love. We love to get love. And if something strikes you as very, very powerful, please use the wow button. It's great feedback for me because then I know when I'm on target. So anyway, all right. Without further ado, we are going to have Tina singing Joy to You and Me.
Jeremiah was a bullfrog. He was a good friend of mine. I never understood a single word he said, but I helped him drink his wine. And he always had some mighty fine wine, singing joy to the world. Oh, the boys and girls, joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea, joy to you and me. If I were the queen of the world, I'd tell you what I do. I throw away the cars and the bars and the wars and make sweet love to you. Joy to the world. Oh, the boys and girls. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. You know I love the lady. I love to have my fun. I'm a high-night flyer in a rainbow rider in a straight shooting son of a gun. I said a straight shooting son of a gun. Joy to the world. Oh, the boys and girls. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. Joy to the world. Oh, the boys and girls. Joy to the world. Joy to you and me. Joy to the world. Oh, the boys and girls. Ooh. Joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea. Joy to you and me. Joy, joy, joy to you and me. Joy, 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 joy to you and me.
Thank you, Tina. By the way, Raymond and Aaron are here from Holland. Just thought I would say. Yeah. Raymond's been helping me a bit. All right. Thank you so much. Well, hi, Missy.
Yes, she has some opinions this morning.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. So we've started doing the Advent topics. Most churches, most Christian churches do Advent in the weeks leading up to Christmas as a way to stem our attention towards the message of Christmas and away from all the craziness. They start it usually right after Thanksgiving. We don't start it till the beginning of December because we have a different reason for doing the Advent topics. It's just a great time. Yes, it stems the attention away from all the busyness and all the craziness, but also because it's the time of year that you want to start thinking about all of these things. And so we do love, joy, hope, and peace. And we rearrange the topics to suit what we have because we always light the menorah, the Hanukkah menorah, as one of those weeks. And that's going to be next week. So we will be lighting the menorah next week. So we'll be talking about hope at that point. But today we're going to talk about joy. And joy is an interesting topic. Well, all of these are really because of the definitions that each of us assigns to everything. Back in, gosh, I don't even remember what year that was. The organization was reorganizing basically, and we hired a consultant who said, well, we need to determine what the values of the organization are. And so they sent out this questionnaire, 2 questionnaires really, to all the practitioners, all the ministers, all the staff of all the churches, all the board members, all of that, to every church and from home office, and said, pick 100 out of the 100 values we're giving you. Pick 10 of them that are your own personal values, and then pick 10 that you believe our organization's values are. Well, to no one's surprise, we couldn't agree on what the 10 values of our organization were. And I didn't understand it at the time because it seemed like a pretty easy thing to do. We did it in our church and we only came up with 8, I will say. We couldn't come up with 10, but we did come up with 8 that everybody thought were our values. So I feel like we were pretty successful in doing that. But it's not as easy as you would think to come up with values that everyone in the congregation can come to agreement on, right? And so when I took my PhD program, or started my PhD program, one of the classes was called Master Values. And so I flew out to North Hollywood and attended this class. And while we were in that class, I finally understood what the issue was with our organization not having the same values. And that's because of definition. Because we got really, really clear that my definition of joy and your definition of joy might not match up, right? And the same thing with love, and the same thing with abundance, and the same thing with prosperity, and on and on and on. And so one of the things that we determined in that class was that there were values that keep you running away from something and other values that keep you running towards something. And I'd been using this that way all this time, really, not realizing I was doing it. A lot of the times I happen on things like, how I train my dogs. I would lay them on their back and cuddle them on their backs. And I didn't realize that what I was doing was teaching them to be non-dominant. All I knew was I loved doing that. So I discover these things kind of as I've been doing them. And then I finally understand why I'm doing them. And one of those has always been that I want people in our church that are running towards the vision that we hold. I used to get calls all the time from various churches, from practitioners who had an issue with the minister or other practitioners or even congregants, wanting to switch their affiliation from that church to ours. And I would say, well, are you coming to our church because you like the vision we have? Are you running towards our church? Or are you running away from a situation that you feel is not great? Well, when I took this class, I finally understood I understood a different languaging that I can use, which is, what are the values that are driving you away from that situation? And what are the values that are driving you towards us? And when you have that kind of conversation, people are typically a lot less defensive about the situation at the other church. And because I used to say, hey, you need, you're welcome to come every Sunday for the rest of your life, as long as you want. But I will not accept your license in our church until you've cleaned it up with whoever that is at the other church. And people get defensive when you say things like that. But when you're talking about, we would rather have people who are running towards our vision than running away from something that doesn't work. And you ask them what values are driving you to come to our church, then all of a sudden they start having some self-awareness about what they're really trying to do. And 9 times out of 10, they ended up staying at whatever church it was. I only had one really that changed her affiliation. But I learned that it was one of those things where you learn as you go, because we accepted some people into our church, and they were not there for the right reasons. They were there because they were trying to get back at their old church. And that usually does not work out, and it did not work out. And so that's how I learned it. And now having this different languaging to be able to apply it to gives me the opportunity to not only talk to them about it, but to talk to you about it. Because really, it's not that we don't agree that joy is a value, right? Everybody probably has joy on their list, but our definitions of joy are very different. So when we do these Advent topics, one of the things I like to do is I like us to think about, what does joy mean to us, right? Or what does love mean to us? Or what does hope mean to us? And what does peace mean to us? And so for me, this is a great time to utilize that ability to kind of zoom in on what those definitions are for us, so that we can get some clarity and bring that into our lives. I love having joy in my life. And there's been a lot of opportunities for joy that I didn't realize were opportunities for joy until I started analyzing all that. But I'm jumping ahead here. I had this student in one of my beginning classes who we always ask people, what would you like to work on while you're in this 10-week class? And they tell me. And then we ask them, okay, so where are you now on a scale from 1 to 10? And where would you like to be in 10 weeks on a scale from 1 to 10? So I had this one student who wanted to experience joy. And I said, oh, that's a great idea. So where are you now? And he said, a -10. I said, what? He goes, I've never experienced joy in my entire life. Okay. And where would you like to be in 10 weeks? And he goes, a +10. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of a tall order, but we'll get there. We'll figure it out. And so as the course went along and our discussions about joy amongst all the students would tend towards different definitions, basically, of the word joy, he started reporting back every week that he was, in fact, experiencing joy. And that he had, in fact, been experiencing joy his whole life. He just didn't recognize it as joy, because he, like so many people, take a word like love or a word like joy or a word like peace and make it this huge thing that is almost unattainable. Because if you're expecting joy to be this overwhelming, slam of energy, and you're not getting that, then to you, you're not experiencing joy, right? And so it was the little things that he keyed in on from the other students that really told him that he was experiencing joy. And so this is a tool that I'm going to use with you, but I want to talk about why I have developed, why I have this tool in my toolkit. So when you become a minister, they have you do these reports. And if you go into an existing church, you do them once every 6 months for 2 years, and then you're ordained and you don't have to do them anymore. But because I started 3 churches, 2 in my name, but 1 for someone else, because I did that, I had to do these reports every 3 months for 7 years, because you don't get as much credit if you start a church as if you are in an existing church. So the time, you don't get as much credit for your time. So anyway, so I did these reports every 3 months, and I roll my eyes because they were not easy and they were not fun. They were 8 to 12 pages long, and they asked a lot of questions that were just over and over and over again, where you didn't have different answers in 3 months. But the 2 questions that were on that report that were the most beneficial for me and made it actually worth it were the questions about joy. The first question was, what brings you joy in your ministry? And, that seems like it'd be an easy thing to answer, right? And in the beginning, it was. In the beginning, like any new relationship, whether that's a love relationship, a friendship, a new job, a new career, a new anything, you have the rose-colored lenses on and everything is wonderful and you feel so much joy. And there's a lot to feel joy about, right? And then as time goes on, you start seeing the little things that aren't bringing you joy and you start focusing in on that. So these reports became very difficult. And so I had to really delve in and meditate and pray and really focus on what brings me joy in my ministry. The second question was, how do you bring joy to your congregation and your family and friends? And that one again is easy at first, and then it becomes harder and harder to come up with different things. Like in 3 months' time, you don't want to say the same thing over and over and over again, just boilerplate the thing and cheat. You want to actually come up with good material. Well, I, at some point couldn't do that. And so I went to the congregation. I went to somebody and I said, how do I bring you joy? And it's funny because they were able to list this whole long list of things that I did that brought them joy that I never considered would be part of that. So I use it now as a tool for all of us, because those are the two things that we really need to think about. The first thing is, what is your definition of joy, right? And I don't need an answer. I just want you to think about, what is your definition of joy? Do you have this large, grandiose idea of what joy is? Or do you appreciate the little joys in life that you're surrounded by? And the second thing is, how do you experience joy in your world? I have a thing about, I love sitting on my porch and watching butterflies. I know that sounds really corny and weird, but we have butterfly bushes. Well, we don't have them. Our neighbors have them. But I would like to sit on my porch and just watch the butterflies, because they flutter onto the flower and they land and they suck the honeysuckle, juice, and then they fly away. And I don't know if they feel joy. All I know is it looks like joy to me. And so when I see them, I experience joy. The other thing is, I like to sit on my couch, and out my back door, there's a school, and above the school is all this blue sky. Well, there are so many cool clouds that are up in that sky, whether it's rain clouds or thunder clouds or just blue sky clouds. It's just joyful to just sit and watch those. So I take these gratitude breaks every day, and I take joy breaks every day, and I try to find something that will increase the experience of joy in the moment for me. And so I ask you to do that very thing, to locate what brings you joy in your life. And then the second question is, how do you bring joy to your family and friends? And again, if you get stuck, just ask somebody. It's amazing how many things they'll come up with that you never even thought of, because we bring each other joy without even thinking about it. It's not like a conscious effort, like I need to bring joy to this person. It's not like we do that. And so we're not sometimes aware of how we're bringing joy to other people. And so, again, I don't need anything written in the comments here. I just am trying to give you some food for thought, some critical thinking tools to help you experience more joy in your life. Because joy is one of those things that is in the now. It can't be, you can remember joy in the past, but you don't get the experience of it. Or you can think about joy that you might have in the future, but again, you don't get the experience of it. The only way to experience joy is in that present moment. Animals are really good at teaching that. Animals and children are really good at teaching that. I had one dog, Chakotay, who came to church. I mean, he was part of our congregation as he was growing up. And that dog was so funny, because you would scold him for something, and he'd go, "Happy now?" And it was really hard to stay mad at him, because that joyful expression in his mind and in his body and in his life was just so contagious. And so when he would do "happy now," we'd be like, yeah, we're happy now, joyful. And so we had another dog who was possibly the dumbest dog I've ever met. She was a Cocker Spaniel and Golden Retriever mix. And Cockers are known for being stubborn, but she wasn't just stubborn. She was actually not intelligent in any way. Which was one of the endearing features to her, because she loved so unconditionally, and there was no thought processes in the way of that, right? But she taught me about being joyful in my own skin, because, and here's an example of how dumb she was. So usually, if you throw a cookie to a dog, they usually catch it. And she did that once in 19 years. She caught it. other than that, we would throw the cookie, here, have a cookie. And she would go, oh, why are you throwing things at me? You know, for 19 years. But because of that, she was just a joyful little bundle of joy, you know. And so she would go out on the grass and she would lay on her back and she would go like this and itch her back. And she'd do that for like an hour and just make these exclamations of joy, you know, grunts and groans and happy noises. And it really taught us about being joyful in our own skin. So it's not that I don't look in the mirror and see the flaws and things like everybody does, but I started to believe that my skin was the perfect skin for me. And as I watched her, I realized how often we get caught up in the world and forget that our skin is just right for us, right? And so, you know, the other thing is that dogs experience now and forever. You are gone forever. Oh, you're here now. And they get so excited because they live in the now. And so they teach us about living in the now and experiencing joy in the now. Children are the same way. You know, if you take a child to a playground where they know absolutely no one, excuse me, where they know absolutely no one, they will find a friend. They just jump into the experience and then they're best friends forever. You know, have you ever noticed that with kids? They don't have any of the analytical stuff that we do. Like, I wonder if that person will hurt me, or, you know, I don't really like the way that person looks, or any of that. It's pure guile. And so when they get involved in the playground and they're loving each other unconditionally and they're experiencing the joy of friendship, it's really easy for us to look at them and understand what joy really looks like and what it feels like. And even like smokers are that way, because adults, we let the cares of the world overtake our joy, as you know, as a general course of action. But smokers have this innate ability to hook up. It's crazy. I went to LA one time to see my friend Adiel, and he took me to dinner at this really nice place. And there was an alley between the two restaurants. And that's where the smokers went to smoke, because God forbid somebody should see them smoking, right? And so we're back in this like way back alley. And they actually had chairs and stuff out there for the smokers. And, you know, usually you walk into a circumstance like that where there's all these people and you may not talk to each other at all, right? So I walk up there and the community that was back there just enveloped me right away. Because we didn't have to think about what we had in common. We had that smoking in common, right? So I was getting invitations to go to their house for dinner. I was getting invitations to go party with them. I was, you know, and it just became like immediately we had this connection. And there's a certain amount of joy in that process, because as adults, like I said, you know, the cares of the world kind of overtake our joy. But when you can find your tribe, so to speak, when you can find your tribe, it's a lot easier to experience joy and to let the cares of the world slip away, right? And so we don't need that common interest. Kids don't need a common interest. They'll say, let's play. What game do you like? I don't know. I don't like that game, but I'll play it with you, you know? And they just experience joy. And so what they have in common, animals and little children on the playground, is complete acceptance in the present moment. See, our way to joy is complete acceptance of God's love in the present moment. And so our way to joy is that complete acceptance. Joy happens only in that present moment, and we can remember joy, like I said, in the past, and we can look forward to joy in the future, but we're not actually experiencing it except in the present moment. So stop and think for a moment. What brings you joy in your life? What kinds of things bring you joy in your life? And, you know, I'm going to ask you to take joy breaks this week. I want you to really experience these little joy breaks, because, like I said, you know, my student thought joy was this big, huge thing. But when he really recognized, as the other students shared about their joy, he started recognizing that he had been experiencing joy all along, but he just wasn't aware that that was a moment of joy. For instance, here's an example from my life. When I lived out in California, I lived in Long Beach, and I used to love to go to Laguna Beach. I don't know what it was about Laguna Beach, other than it was quieter than some of the other beaches because it wasn't as well known. But I used to love to go to Laguna Beach, and I used to go on Sunday afternoon, late afternoon, and there was this place of all names, Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory in Laguna Beach, California, right? And so I would get a dozen chocolate-covered strawberries because, you know, you can't just eat one. Anyway, and so I would take it out onto the beach, and I would wait for the tide to roll in. And when that happened, there's just this moment that happens when the negative ions are powerfully present, and you feel your skin even tingle with them if you really feel things, you know. And there's that moment when that happens that's very magical. So when that would happen, I'd start eating my chocolate covered strawberries, and I had this like blissful, joyful experience in that moment. And I did that every Sunday night, and I didn't realize it, but that was my real first experience of meditation. It was just kind of like that's how I learn. You know, I do things, I don't know why I do them. I learn from them, and then I learn why I do them, and then I learn even more from them. And so that's what was going on at that time. I had this, there was this practitioner at Mile High that I used to call her the blissful queen because she really was something else. Her name was Sadie Turtelot. And we took a class together one time with this charismatic Christian minister named Eben Hodkins. And his way, he had this thing about ecstatic love, that his relationship with God was ecstatic love, and that he would try to lose himself in the ecstasy of that love. And so that's what he taught. And so we would do Sufi dancing, and we would do these chants, and he would play guitar, and we would sing songs and whatever. And Sadie would sit off in the corner in the back of the room and just laugh, like belly laugh the entire time. She was so full of joy, she couldn't contain it, and it had to come out through laughter. And I remember years and years later, we had lost our facility, and we started having breakfast club every week instead of having church service. And she came over to the table, and she was talking about that she had cancer, and that she healed it by focusing her attention on the light of God, and how it was in and through her body and every cell of her being, and blah, 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 blah. And she went on and on and on about that. But through that explanation that she was giving us, she was laughing. She had so much joy. And so when I think of her as the blissful queen of joy. I mean, I've just never met anybody that could find joy in every circumstance. And 8 years later, she was still alive. So I don't know if the cancer came back or what. I do know that she was in a wheelchair for the last few years of her life. But everybody that I talked to that was with her said she still had an incredible amount of joy no matter what, and would laugh and tease us and, you know, all of that. And so I really understand now what she was teaching me. And that was that blissful state of joy that we have in everyday moments if we just open to them. So stop and think for a moment. How do you bring joy to your friends and family? Do you do it by laughter? Do you do it by playing tricks on people? Do you do it by surprising people when you come in from another country? What is it that you do that brings joy to other people? So when you really think about all of those things, like how do I experience joy in my life and how do I bring joy to others? When you think about all of that kind of stuff, it's amazing how much more joy you can experience. So what keeps us from our joy? Well, as I see it, there's three things that keep us from our joy. One is fear. The other is, all of a sudden I can't think. I get these moments of like blissful non-remembering. Oh, for unforgiveness. That's what it is. Fear, unforgiveness. And the third one is feeling like we're separate. So let's talk about each one of those really quickly, because fear is something we all experience fear. And that's okay. It's not like I'm saying, no, never experience fear. What I'm saying is recognize when you're feeling fear, when you're experiencing fear, and counteract it with love and joy. Okay. A perfect example is St. Francis of Assisi and the lepers. St. Francis had this like almost psychotic fear of lepers. And he was walking on his horse one day, and this leper stood in front of him. And he said, if I'm a man of faith, if I really believe in God, if I really love God, then what I need to do is I need to conquer my fear of this and actually get over it. So he got off of his horse, and the leper put out his hand thinking that, St. Francis would just give him coins. And instead, to everyone's surprise, he kissed him. And then he gave him money. And then he got back up on his horse. And we never heard whether he kissed him on the lips or the cheek or whatever. It's just, But it was interesting to realize for him that he had nothing to fear. That if he really believed what he thought he believed or what he said he believed, that nothing like that could touch him. And through that ability to look fear in the face, so to speak, he was able to experience a blissful sense of joy in that moment where he really was in ecstasy. And that's really what happens for us. Like Daniel in the lion's den is another example. Here he is in this arena, and everybody wants to see the lions tear him apart, right? And they're cheering and they're wanting all this to happen. And, when you have these stone walls all the way around you, there's no escape. So you can either try to face the wall and try to get away from seeing the lions or whatever and be torn up, or you can turn around and face them. And so what did he do? He sat down and he looked the lions in the eye, and the lions calmed down and they didn't hurt him. And of course, the spectators were real disappointed because they were in there for the guts and glory. And but it taught us a very valuable lesson about facing our fears, because who wouldn't be afraid of a lion tearing you to pieces, right? I mean, you have to be crazy not to be afraid of that if you're stuck in this arena with a bunch of lions. But he was able to overcome that by facing the lions, facing his fears. It's a beautiful story about how you can turn that fear into joy. Todd Evan Pressman, PhD, wrote a book called Radical Joy, Awakening Your Potential for True Fulfillment. And what he says in there is when we find and face our fear, we are flooded with a joy that has always been there waiting for us. See, it eludes us because of the fears that we experience, right? So what fears do you have that are keeping you from your joy? Really? What fears do you have? Sometimes it's just a matter of not bracing yourself against something. What we resist persists. So, for example, I get massages both for my Hashimoto's because I have muscle cramps and from an injury that I had to my back, 30 years ago. But I was seeing this one masseuse for like 29 years. And when someone goes to massage you and you feel a lot of pain, your body in reaction automatically withdraws back, wants to pull away from that. And she said, I want you to just take some deep breaths in and out, and I want you to press into my hands. I know it's going to be painful, but if you do it, I promise you will feel better. And truly, I mean, it hurt. I'm not going to lie. It hurt a lot. But as she worked and as I relaxed more and more, and as I breathed into it and pressed against it, I began to feel the pain going away and the knots melting. And I took that as she was working on me, and I was experiencing the shift from the pain to that feeling of, oh God, this feels so good. I realized that that's what we do in life. We have a fear and we withdraw from it. And what we really need to do is breathe very deeply and press into what it is we're afraid of. Because chances are, whatever we're afraid of, if we focus on it enough, remember our preponderance of our thoughts, we will create that experience. And so we don't want to create those experiences. So what I'm saying is when we're willing to turn and face our fears like Daniel did in the lion's den, there's joy for us to experience. So we're going to always practice choosing joy over fear. You know that our emotions are really a choice, right? We think we're out of control of our emotions, but we're not. We are always at choice of what we choose. So in every circumstance where we start to feel fear, we're going to say, no, I choose joy instead of fear. I choose joy over fear. And so unforgiveness is the second one. And how many of us live in fear of someone hurting us? Like, how present can you actually be in a relationship when all you're focused on is making sure you don't get hurt, right? So the key to that is not only forgiving the other person. And by the way, forgiving the other person has nothing to do with them. It is only breaking the chains that bind you to them and freeing yourself. That's what forgiveness is. I know last week I talked a little bit about Tammy Faye Baker and her sermon on unforgiveness, because in the medieval ages, if you committed a murder, they would strap that corpse onto your back, and you had to carry that around until it rotted off of you and fell off naturally. And she said, unforgiveness is like strapping a corpse to your back and waiting for it to rot off. And what's really true about that is that it does nothing for that other person. They've already moved on. And even if you say to them, I forgive you, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, you forgive me for what? Because they don't even know that they've done anything. And it's so out of their realm of experience that they don't even, notice what they've done. So it's not about saying to them, I forgive you. It's about you saying to yourself, I forgive this person. But most importantly is forgiving yourself, because truly, and you're going to say, I know you're going to, in your mind, you're going, what do I have to forgive myself for? They're the ones that did that. Well, here's the thing. We hold it against ourselves for letting that happen. Tell me I'm wrong, right? Have you ever really realized that you blame them, but you also blame yourself because you let it happen, or because you didn't see the signs, or because you didn't recognize what was going on, or because blah, 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 whatever those things are. And so forgiveness of self is like the crucial thing that you must do in order to experience a more joyful life. Because the truth is, we're not, probably omniscient is probably the closest word to it. We're not omniscient. So we do not know everything. And so when these circumstances arrive, if we don't see the signs, it's not on us, right? So we need to forgive ourselves. And in doing so, we actually free ourselves to experience joy. When you forgive whatever is in the past, it releases the bonds that keep us from the joy. And it's for us. It's not for anybody else that we do that. The third thing is the sense of separation. And what's really true is that one of the things that keeps us from our joy is our sense of being separate from God. Now, if you believe what we believe, what I teach, that God is in and through and around us, you know that you could never be separate from God, right? So there really is no separation. And if you believe, like I teach, that the world is comprised of beings that are all connected by it, through it, as it, that God is the connecting tissue, so to speak, that binds us together, like that song, We Are All One. If you believe that way, then you must know that you could never, ever be separate from God, because you can't be separate from something that's inside of you, right? And so instead of thinking that we're separate from God, that God is some wise judge in the sky judging us that might punish us or reward us, we have a vision of a supportive being within us that is divine intelligence, that is supportive of our desires. And it's so much easier not to have fear when you know that God is within you. It's so much easier to turn and face those fears. It's so much easier to forgive ourselves and others, because when we realize that God is in here and we can't be separate from it, joy is right on the surface for us to experience. So this week, I'm going to ask you to do those 3 things. Well, I'm going to ask you to actually do more than that. I'm going to ask you to ask yourself those 3 questions. What does joy mean to me? How do I experience joy in my life? How do I provide joy to my family and friends? How do I give the experience of joy to them? And then we're going to work on those 3 things that we need to release so that joy can be part of our experience. We're going to face our fears. Obviously, we don't have to be in a lion's den. But when you look at your fear and say, what is this fear of? Am I afraid of not being loved? Am I afraid of somebody abandoning me? Am I afraid of whatever it is that you're afraid of? When you look at it and you realize that there's nothing to fear because God is more powerful than anything that's there. And because we know that if we limit our experience, we won't experience love and joy, right? So we're going to look at our fears. We're going to look at our unforgiveness and make a commitment to forgive everybody for everything, and including, and more importantly, ourselves. And then we're going to focus our attention on how connected we are to all of life because God resides within us and we could never be separate. Will you do that with me this week? Let's have a prayer.
We can't hear you.
I must have muted it or unmuted it and muted it again. Okay, so let's start over again. I just turn my awareness now to the infinite power, the infinite presence, the infinite life of God. To that place within me that knows beyond human understanding just how powerful, how beautiful, how loving God is. To know that I am being led and guided by that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through us all is the awareness that takes me forward in my leaps of joy. I know the same truth to be so for every member of the team, because I do know that when God provided this team, it provided it as a connection of the community, a connection that is felt and seen and known by all who are involved. And so that same wisdom of the ages is what powers us, leads us, guides us, moves us forward. And I know this to be true for every name or every person who is here, whether in real time or later on, because I do know that we are connected by it, through it, as it. And that ancient wisdom of the ages is the same flowing throughout everyone, and it guides and leads anyone who is open to it. So I bless this coming week because I do know that boundless joy awaits us. That all of the things that we are practicing to eliminate anything that's keeping us from our joy, and all of these activities that we undertake to increase our joy breaks every day, all of those things, that there is an abundance of those experiences there and available. And so we latch on to those as we experience more joy in this week than we have ever experienced before, because we've become aware of those joys that are there. I know that same truth to be so for every name that is in the ministry of prayer today, because I do know that whatever condition they are experiencing, the joy of God, the love of God, that God has a power is what is underneath that, powers through that. And so I claim that, I pull back the veil and I claim it in their name as good and very good. And so my heart just fills with gratitude to know that this is so, to be of service in this way. And so I just let it be. And so it is. Amen. Mhm. Thank you, Faith. Right now is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to express gratitude for that which you have seen in the physical reality already, and for that which you have created in the mind of God that you may not have already experienced in the physical realm. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to go to www.oasiscsl.org, and about 2/3 down the page is our offering affirmation. I'm going to have you say it with me, but right underneath there is the Contribute Now button. So I want to talk briefly about what contributing means. When we're in a facility, there's rent, there's utilities, there's all these expenses that are related to a church. We don't have any of those expenses. What we do have an expense for is marketing to the world, because our vision is a healed world. And our mission is to heal the world one person at a time. So we are asking that you support that, support the vision by supporting our mission. So, excuse me, please go with me right now to www.oasiscsl.org, whether you're in real time or later on. And about 2/3 down the page, please say this offering affirmation with me. This perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. All right, hit that Contribute Now button. Help us with our mission to get to our vision. We already have people in the Philippines, India, the UK, Holland, and Germany that are tuning in, but we want to reach the entire world. So definitely help us with that. All right. Faith, well, it's all right. I'll do them real quick. So the first announcement that we have is our licensed practitioners are available by appointment for a fee for spiritual guidance. They actually serve the church in 3 ways, but I wanted to say that. So if you would like an appointment for spiritual guidance, you reach out to our practitioners and tell them that you would like that, and they will tell you how to pay it. I don't get involved in that. They have their own business. So some of them use Venmo, some PayPal, some Wise, some Cash App, Zelle, whatever. And then you pay for it, and then they will reach out to you by video chat at the appointed time. The other way that our practitioners serve is by praying every day for a week on any prayer requests that we have. So in the comment section, if you would like prayer, please put what you would like prayer for. If you don't want it to be public, DM Faith, and she will make sure that the God Squad, that's what we call our practitioners, the God Squad, will make sure the God Squad gets those prayer requests. And of course, the third way they serve is by being practitioner of the day, which is what Oz is doing. And that is doing an invocation, a benediction, and being available for what we call our 1-minute miracle at the end. It's not a time for counseling, but it is a time where you can share whatever experience you're having, and he will stop, drop, and pray with you right there. And then we're running late, so I'm not going to do all of the announcements today. I have to pick up my husband from rehab, so I'm like, I can't go over because I got to get there. So I'm going to just mention real quickly, Brooks and Bailey, they have the mala beads. Faith has a website, she has, a website, and you can order through Instagram and Facebook on intention jars and bath salts and that kind of thing. Angel Renee has an Etsy store for intention candles and a tea bag that you can put in the bath. And all of that is in the comments, so I'm not going to be worried about whether or not you can get to them. The ladies that provide us music every week is Reverend Fairy Lane Silver. Her website, she doesn't have any way to let you pay for it there, so you need to contact her by email. She travels around the country singing, and she always has them in the trunk of her car. So go on, figure out which CD you want, let her know by email, and she'll send it to you. She's really good about getting those out. The other one is Karen Drucker. On her website, you can pay for it. You can buy it by the songbook, the CD. You get karaoke files if you want, and everything is available right then and there, so you can pay for it there. All right, also check out our website. There you're going to find video sermons from the last 3 years, audio sermons from years prior. We are also on YouTube and SoundCloud. YouTube has the video sermons, and SoundCloud has the audio sermons. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Oz to pray us out.
And I know that the presence of God right here, right now, extends with us throughout the week and throughout our lives. It is in us, as us, all around us, creating us as we go. And I know that there is a blessing that's waiting right now. I let this be so with great thanks, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. And thank you to all of you who've been here today. There's 1,000 things you could be doing on a Sunday morning. We're really blessed to have you here with us. Join us next week and every week at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Next week, like I said, we're going to be lighting the menorah, and we will be talking about hope. Not the kind of like, I hope this happens, but hope for the world. So until then, stay safe. We love you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.